Hey everybody, welcome to another video about blacksmithing. I decided to cut the audio out of this first part of the video. I'm going to do a voiceover here and kind of explain what's going on. I'll turn the audio back on for the second half of the video. Um, what I'm doing here is I'm building a fire. You saw I started off with kind of that yellow-green colored smoke. That's from the bituminous coal that I'm burning. As soon as I got enough heat built up down underneath of it, I kind of poke it with a poker, and it gives a path for the heat to come up, and it lights that smoke, and that's where I get my good-looking fire that you're used to seeing there. I went ahead and put my pieces into the fire and get them good and hot. If you don't have a good fire, if you don't have a good base for your fire to start with, you're not going to get a good heat in your metal. You're not going to get a good soak on the heat so that it actually heats the metal all the way through so you get uniform movement. And that's what I'm doing right here. I've sped this video up way faster than normal time because honestly it's pretty boring stuff sitting there watching a fire try and heat up metal from scratch for the first time. Got some family moving around in the background there, but after I got my initial couple of pieces hot, you'll see I had 2 in the fire there. I started trying different things. I spent about 10 or 15 minutes trying different methodologies for how I wanted to make these. I'm making yard poles for you to run paracord through to kind of fence off an area for an event that we're going to be going to. They're only going to be 24 inches high. They'll stick in the ground 6 inches. And then, so 18 inches off the ground, you'll have a little loop that you'll run paracord through, and that kind of fences off the area. For those of you that have been to LATP and seen our blacksmithing demo, we used stakes very similar to this to kind of stake off the area and keep people from getting too close to the forge so that they get burnt and that sort of thing. This is just, it's kind of like a safety fence, but it's about 18 inches off the ground. I tried different ways of bending the metal. I tried bending it one way first, and one way, then the other way. I tried putting it in the vise and bending it to see what it did. I really didn't like any of the methodologies that I was coming up with at this point. You'll see I kind of unbend a piece a little bit and try and straighten it back out and do it a little different. That's just part of blacksmithing. In my opinion, it's a big part of it is trying things out, figuring out what's the right way to do things. There's some people that would tell you to bring it over and forge weld it back together. I don't need to do that for my purposes. I just need to have a hole that the paracord won't fall out of at the top of it. If I was going to do this, and I had a large production of these to make, I'm only having to make a dozen of them here. If I was going to make, say, 100 or 150 or 200 of them, I'd make myself a little bending tool where I'd measure out the distance that I needed to bend. I'd take the hot piece of metal, I'd put it into a fork, and then I'd take a bending tool and I would bend it around the fork that I made, so that way I got an exactly perfect bend every single time, perfect length, perfect hole in the middle. Usually you got to tap it just a hair to get it to release out of the fork. But since I really wasn't going for uniformity and I didn't have, dozens and dozens of these things to make, I wanted to find a way to do it just on the anvil that would be easy for me to do where I didn't have to build any tooling or anything. If I end up making more of these, and it's very possible that I will, I'll probably either go down to the Hayesville shop where they've got a variable bending tool, or I will go ahead and make myself a little bending tool and a bending fork that I can either stick in my vise or drop into my hardy hole. That way I can just put the piece in there where I want it. I know exactly what I need to do. I put the bending tool on it and just wrap it around. What I'm working with here is 1/2 inch round. I finally have a good idea of exactly how I want to make this thing. So I'm taking my 1/2 inch round, I'm heating up about the last 4 or 5 inches of it in the fire. I'll take this back to a little bit slower time here in just a minute. You can watch me make it. I'm just doing a little fire cleanup here before I actually make my first piece. And there we go. I finally got a hot piece. And here you can see me actually making the first one of these with my plan. I start off by tapering the end of it where it's going to bend around and touch itself. I then bring it out over the anvil and start the bend over the side of the anvil, take it out onto the cone, start the wrap around just so I get a good curl going around the horn of the anvil. Then I'll bring it back and I'll put it in the step and start pounding it down so that I get a decent connection back to the main part of the body of my piece. I'll bring it back over to the edge of the anvil and bend it back so that the hole is centered on the stake. I'll kind of drive the two pieces together and then I'll put it over the end of the anvil and give it a whack back so that it opens the hole up a little bit. And then I'll quench it, throw it over on the pile of finished pieces. The audio's back on now, so I'll let you listen and speed up time to me actually hammering on these things and heating them up. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments below. I'll be happy to explain anything that's going on or do a slower part of this. I also did the last couple of these on a Facebook Live video. If you enjoy this, please let me know.